arts, lifestyle. SNS Online.
I'm too sexy for my love, too sexy for my love, love's going to leave me.
Hello and welcome to SNS Online. My special guests today are particularly well known for a song that has traversed generations and has cemented itself in the zeitgeist, heard on countless radio stations, television shows and indeed Hollywood movies. Their back catalogue, however, is rich and vast, and they continue to this day to produce cracking new toe-tapping tracks, one of which celebrates love in all its forms and is newly out now. As multi-platinum award-winning artists and songwriters, their global sales total £30 million, with over 100 million plays on Spotify. The band has performed with Bob Dylan, Mick Jagger and David Bowie, and they've won 2 consecutive BMI awards in 2018 and 2019. So, let's have a listen to some of their work.
I'm too sexy for my shirt, too sexy for my shirt, so sexy it hurts. And I am too sexy for Milan, too sexy for Milan, New York and Japan. And I am too sexy for your party, too sexy for your party, no way I'm disco dancing. I'm a model, you know what I mean, and I do my little turn on the catwalk, yeah, on the catwalk, yeah, I do my little turn on the catwalk.
Deeply dippy about the way you walk, a contact sport, let the neighbors talk. Deeply dippy, I'm your Superman, I'll explain, you're my lowest lane, oh my love. I can't make head nor tail of passion, oh my love. Let's set sail for seas of passion now. Oh, don't talk, just kiss, we're beyond words and sound. Don't talk, just kiss, let your tongue fool around. Let's fool around. All I needed was your love, even now it's obvious. All I needed was a turtle dove to make it right. All I needed was your touch, close and now the obvious. All I needed was a gentle push to paradise. Shine your light on love, shine your light on us, shine your light because your inner light is love. Shine your light on friends, shine your light on them, shine your light because your inner light is love.
Oh, fabulous stuff. These guys also have very strong views on how the COVID crisis has been dealt with, which we'll be listening to. As usual, we always recommend checking the NHS website or indeed contacting your local GP if you have any particular COVID-related questions or concerns. So, welcome one and all to the pop-tastic, iconic and ever-enduring Right Said Fred.
Right said Fred, both of us together, one each end and steady as we go. Tried to shift it, couldn't even lift it, we was getting nowhere, and so we had a cup of tea.
Fred and Richard Fairbrass, welcome to SNS Online. I've got to say, I am loving the single so much. It's like a blanket of love and joy in uncertain times. Your inner light is loved. First of all, hello, welcome to the show, and tell me about the single.
Okay.
The single...
This is Fred talking now.
Hello, Fred.
Fall asleep, will you?
Yeah, that's very kind. Yes, the idea of the song is that the previous single had been a bit bad-tempered and a bit narky. It was called We're All Criminals.
We're all criminals, all criminals, we're all criminals now. We're all criminals, it ain't too subliminal. We're all criminals.
We were sort of purging ourselves of
Yes.
a lot of cynicism. And so we wanted to follow it up with the complete opposite. So we wanted to write something a bit sort of, all-embracing, evangelical, kind of touchy-feely. And we wanted it to, we fancied sort of a campfire sing-along. And that's what we aimed at.
Yeah.
And that's why we got the gospel choir, gospel undertones in, because we wanted that evangelical sort of vibe.
Yeah, we sort of, partly, we wrote it, I think, to cheer ourselves up.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I can totally appreciate that. I think we've had a belly full of it in the last year and a half. I don't know. It feels like 100 years.
It feels forever.
Yeah, we've had well, like almost every artist. I nearly said almost every artist, but every artist we've had over a year's work cancelled, just taken away. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I know you've been in the headlines for the wrong reasons, and I suspect you've probably been misquoted on Twitter and all that. But filtering all that nonsense out, and this is your chance to explain what you actually meant. What is your actual take on the pandemic and how the government have been dealing with it?
Well, the first demo we went to was out of curiosity. To be completely honest, it was a year and a half ago.
It was sort of last summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, Trafalgar Square, and we went mainly because I'd never been to a demo before. I stood on the very outskirts of the anti-war in Iraq thing all those years ago, and I just to watch. And I don't really think that demonstrations are very British, particularly. There's a kind of, I don't know, I don't think it suits us very well. Having said that, the times demand it, I think. We have never been deniers. I mean, I think the COVID strain is definitely out there, and we've never been anti-vaxxers. Our concern really has just been that everything has been rather rushed, and I'm happier just sitting around and waiting. And if in a year's time everything seems fine and they've done a bit more work on it and it's all, it's everything, there's no serious side effects and everything else, then I would absolutely have it. I've had loads we both have. We've had loads of vaccinations over the years. It's just the speed of this particular one to market that made me slightly concerned. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I do a separate podcast called Corona Chronicles, and I was interviewing somebody from the Oxford vaccine who was saying that these vaccines are sort of more or less been ready for 30 years. They've had 30 years of research. So the actual basic vaccine itself literally took a couple of weeks to re-synthesize. But of course, they had all the safety tests took the best part of a year to ensure that everybody was okay with it. But I mean, I guess you've got to speak to people like that, really, or the rest of it. I mean, if you were Prime Minister, I mean, I want to get back to the music soon, but while we're on this stuff, if you were Prime Minister, how would you have dealt with the whole thing from the beginning?
Well, I think we would have, first of all, I mean, I'm no fan of Boris Johnson at all, but you're damned if you do and damned if you don't in his situation. Yeah. It's almost an impossible task, I think, to get it right.
Oh, yeah.
So I wouldn't criticise him particularly on that matter. There's one criticism I make there are two actually, of the way they've handled it. One is right from the beginning, they should have emphasised the importance of everybody's immune system, healthy eating, getting enough sleep, getting exercise, going out walking, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Looking after your immune system. We haven't heard anything about vitamin D from this. Eventually. I mean, it's taken a long time. David Davis raised it in the House about 2 months ago, and it was given pretty short shrift. Ivermectin is another one. When the argument tends to have been pretty one-sided. So I think from that point of view, they've dropped the ball. And Boris Johnson should be absolutely from the rooftops screaming about personal integrity, privacy, and the right to dissent. That's my thing. I don't criticise him for policy mistakes because I think it's easy to make policy mistakes in this particular situation.
Sure.
There's no excuse for not reminding people that they have a brain of their own, an intellect of their own, and they have responsibility to themselves and their family. It's not the state's job to make us all well and to make us wise.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point. I mean, I was saying funnily enough, I was saying to Carol Decker earlier today, we're having this conversation. She says hello to you. Apparently, she went out with one of your drummers years ago, so she's waved hello to you.
Hello.
But we were talking earlier today about it in terms of how it was done from the very beginning. I think there could have been more stringent measures at the very beginning of the pandemic. It took a long time for any of us to really react to it. And I think that caused deaths.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is that we've got a kind of league table of misery at the moment. You know, the COVID misery is the worst misery. And cancer and diabetes and strokes have all sort of dropped down the league table now. And you get people saying, you don't know what it's like. You know, I knew somebody who died of COVID. Well, my partner died of cancer 10 years ago, so I know what grief is like.
Sure.
And I know how awful it is when you lose somebody. And it actually doesn't matter what you lose them from. It could be a car accident. It could be a long-term chronic disease. It could be anything, but the pain is still the same. So I don't have much patience with this league table of misery that we seem to be engaged upon. And you might have a point about more stringent measures right at the beginning. My personal thing is that it would have been wise to appeal to British people as adults, not as children.
I think the endless coercion.
Yeah,
and it's been all stick, no carrot, isn't it? And just the double speak is weird. 1 minute Hancock is saying the vaccines are the way forwards, and then the next minute Johnson's saying it wasn't vaccines at all. It was lockdowns. I mean, the double speak and the lack of cohesion and the lack of clarity is either on purpose or they're just just more disorganised than we can imagine.
I think also the other thing is that what seems to have come out for me is this idea that the insult that you're just a conspiracy theorist, as if conspiracies only happen on one side. The idea that there's no conspiring between Google and Costa Coffee and Amazon and all these people all talk. They all play golf together. I mean, it's ridiculous to assume that the conspiracy theories are just on the lunatic fringes. Conspiracy theories happen everywhere.
Price fixing is a conspiracy.
Yeah, price fixing is a conspiracy theory. And there's one doctor today actually talking about medications for COVID-19, and I think she might have a point. She's saying the reason you haven't heard anything about vitamin D, for instance, is because there's no money in it.
Interesting. I've been on the vitamin D for months now, and also zinc as well, because that sort of filtered through via a taxi driver who told me that a doctor told him, and this was like almost a year ago now. Yeah,
exactly. I just think that the ball was dropped. I mean, Keir Starmer has dropped a much bigger ball than Johnson, in as much as right from the very beginning, if he had talked about the importance of self-reliance, looking after yourself, immune systems, supplements. If you talk to your doctor, talk to your local chemist about what you can do to look after yourself. But instead, the immediate reaction was fines and finger wagging, and I have no patience whatsoever.
I completely understand your mentality. I think the overall concern is there's lots of there's going to be stupid people who are just going to go out and go into raves and not care at all. And my understand where I'm coming from, I see these rules as created to prevent idiots just not getting the basics, because we're assuming that everybody should just behave in a reasonable way, and we hope everybody will do. I think the concern is that there are a large amount of people who just will dismiss it completely, and that's why these rules were in place. It's not an easy thing to resolve, is it?
No, it's no. I don't. No, it's not. No, it's not. I don't know whether this is. This is an argument. I've heard it mentioned a couple of times. The problem is we have, I think, and it seems to ring a bell with me, which is ever since God disappeared, ever since faith took a back seat, everybody looks to the government, to officials, to other human beings, to other people of one kind or another, to make us safe, to make us well, to make sense of a chaotic world. And actually, it's impossible. It's impossible. We've now got to a stage where when you go to an ATM machine, there are footprints on the pavement to tell you how to stand. This is it's complete insanity. Yeah, and there was a talk the other day, and this guy was saying, if you imagine back in the day, there was God at the top, there was government in the middle, and man at the bottom. And now it's government at the top, man in the middle, and God at the bottom. And I think that rings true to me. And we look to officials, and we look to the government, and we look to people who are just people to somehow make us well, to make us healthy, to give us advice that we should really be able to look for ourselves. It's not rocket science. I mean, you can't even look at a cigarette packet in a supermarket. It's insane. It's completely insane.
I've always taken these rules as things to adhere by, but allow yourself a certain amount of wiggle room in the real world.
No, I agree. I mean, interestingly enough, when we were doing back in the day, a few years ago, when we were doing a show in, I think it was Hamburg, we went into a hotel and there were ashtrays all over the place. So I remember thinking, that's a bit odd. And the guy said, no, he said, we just don't take any notice. So you can't smoke in your room, but you can smoke
in the lobby.
Yeah.
When we went to Leeds last year, the madness of the world we live in now is that if you wanted a warm croissant, you could have it in the restaurant downstairs. No, if it was cold, you could have it in the restaurant downstairs. If you wanted the croissant warmed, you have to eat it in your room because it's a hot breakfast.
Right.
One of the things I think you've got to everybody should bear in mind when they talk about, strictures and restrictions and everything else. Governments are very, very reluctant. All governments are very reluctant to remove these things when they're no longer necessary. And I think that's a real issue. And I think the security airlines is a really good example. Let's suppose everything in the Middle East was sorted out and there's no ISIS. Do we seriously imagine that whole security thing apparatus is going to go? Of course it won't. There's too many people making money out of it. So I think we just have to be careful when we say, it's a jolly good thing the governments have banned this and banned that and done this. Be very careful what you wish for because these things will not be given back easily. It will take a fight.
So one final thing about the vaccine, before we get onto the music, because obviously I want to talk about that. In terms of like everybody's having the vaccinations now, you're saying that you don't want to have it now, but you want to leave it for later. I mean, if everybody was doing that,
we'd be much better off.
Do you think? What you mean not having the vaccine for a year and just seeing how we went with the situation as it is at the moment with people dying?
Well, the weird thing about vaccines, as you listen to Dr. Fauci, is that he's a doctor of what? I mean, he's a doctor of time ending or a doctor of wig making. I don't know what sort of doctor he is.
He's amazing for 80.
He's amazing for 80.
That's true.
Yeah, he's obviously pickled in some way or another. But he was saying, even if you're vaccinated, you still have to wear a mask. You still have to socially distance. You still have to self-isolate. It seems to me that there are almost no restrictions that you can escape, even if you're vaccinated. So, and the other thing, of course, is that there's nowhere near enough publicity given to the various blood clots and the various side issues. You only have to, it really is not that difficult. You go on social media and you will see, there's a World Doctors Alliance, for instance, and they will send you information all the time about people that have died within a certain amount of time, several weeks or maybe even a day later of the jab. So my thing is, people say, well, that's just the one or two. That's only 500 out of 1,000 or whatever. I don't know what the numbers are. But if it's you, it's a big deal.
Oh, sure. But comparing to the amount of people who might be dying if they haven't had the jab.
Yeah, but the thing is, the jab does not stop transmission. What the jab does, as I understand it, is it merely stops you helps to prevent you becoming seriously ill should you become ill with COVID-19.
Sure.
That's what it does. Yeah. So it doesn't. This idea that somehow you are, it's a kind of key to freedom or something is a complete misnomer. And as Fred quite rightly said, Boris Johnson only a few days ago said it's nothing to do with vaccine. It's all to do with lockdown.
Also,
which tells you we are in for another one.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
That's coming down the road.
I mean, just on a personal note, and this is not scientific at all.
Sure.
But I do have friends who've had COVID. I don't know anyone who's died from COVID, but I do now have two friends who've died within 3 days of the vaccine. So,
really?
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
I do. Yeah, both friends of my wife's, and both fit and healthy. Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying it was the vaccine. I'm just saying that's just my personal stat.
Sure.
It's not scientific, and there is a friend of ours who's had the vaccine, and he's been, horribly ill. It's been quite. I personally think he should have gone to hospital, but anyway. Probably in the same breath, we can say, well, these hundreds of thousands of people weren't ill, and that's great. But I personally think caution to do with everything is not a bad idea. If there was a brand new. A brand new self-driving car, I would be cautious about sitting in that. I just would. I just would.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know. I'm still cautious with the mobile phone, to be honest with you. I don't like talking on the phone too much. I don't like.
Makes my ear hot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it makes my eyes funny when I look at it too much. So I'm cautious with that. The use of. So it isn't just this. I just think a little bit of caution is not necessarily a bad thing, particularly in a world where health and safety is we hit over the head with it every day. But apparently it doesn't seem to apply.
Well, today we had
this so much.
we had Tony Blair saying. I mean, I don't want anybody gives that guy any publicity at all these days. But anyway, he was saying that the government should engage on a massive advertising campaign to increase the vaccination take-up. What I think he should be advocating is the freedom to think for yourself. That's all I'm saying. Encourage people to look into it themselves, understand if they want the jab, what they're getting, which one they're getting, and that's it. Do some research. I know a lady who's 82. She lives in a care home. She has received both jabs. She doesn't know what their jabs were. She was given no information about it at all. It's breaking the Nuremberg Code, apart from anything else.
Yes.
So we just need to. I just wish we would just think for ourselves a little bit more and not always, defer to Boris Johnson, Matt Hancock, who knows as much about medicine as I do.
So in terms of not having the jab now, how are you conducting your lives? Are you social distancing? Are you wearing masks? Or are you not doing anything at all? What's the score with you guys?
We don't. We're not very.
We're not very social anyway.
Love it.
It's not much of a cutback for us. We're not that sociable. It doesn't make any difference sitting outside at a restaurant,
sure,
or a cafe. When we go to work, we work with one other guy in the studio, and there's ample room if he wants to social distance. And that is about it. When I'm asthmatic and I have chronic sinusitis, so I am generally exempt. But having said that, I have worn masks occasionally if I think I'm in a situation that is, I don't know, like a really, really crowded room. When you're waiting on the gantry to go to the plane, I may have put one on now and again, but not generally, because I have a very small time before I start getting breathing problems.
Sure. Well, I mean that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
So I have to be quite careful. But generally speaking, no. I mean, we've never done the big premiere thing, the big party thing. So for us, social distancing, not and gyms have only just opened. We've got a gym at home.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are some things.
Not a lot of lifestyle change at all.
No, you can change little simple things like I've changed. I don't go to the major supermarkets anymore. I go to a little grocer's down the road, who's much more relaxed, and it's a revelation because I can buy 1 carrot at a time. I don't have to buy 50 in a bag.
Yeah.
So, so I would advise everybody who's thinking of looking at changing habits, and you have to say that one thing this has done is force you to look at habits that you've got that you could possibly change. And one of mine is the way I shop. I don't go to the chemist anymore because that's like walking into some kind of prison camp. I can't be doing with it. So I just now get everything, all my toiletries on Amazon. Yeah. And I would invite everybody to invest in cardboard because that's clearly that's clearly the material of the future.
Oh right, yeah. Well, yeah. Let's get on to your music then, because this is obviously going to run the other thing, unfortunately. You guys are multi-award winning. I mean, you've done so much. I was going through your Wikipedia, so much you packed in. Does it frustrate you sometimes that people just think they sort of rather lazily associate you with I'm Too Sexy and nothing else? I mean, is I'm Too Sexy your pension, guys?
Oh, that'd be nice. It was.
I mean, if one person had written it instead of 3 of us, then without question, you could live on it for the rest of your life easily. Sure. A bit like Jerry Rafferty with Baker Street.
Baker Street, yeah.
And I think that's the case or Gary Newman with Cars or something. But when there's split between 3 writers, then no. But we're still very lucky compared to most. I was talking to our accountant, and he works with lots of other bands, and we're one of the few bands where the royalty stream hasn't dropped. Right. And our royalty payment was it this week? No, last week, wasn't it? We got paid. We got paid our first quarter last week, and it was all right. You know, it wasn't brilliant. You know, it wasn't life changing, but we're compared to a lot of my musician mates who relied on going out and playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're extremely fortunate.
Yeah, and we have always been. We've kind of even right from the mid to late 90s, we got used to being on the outer rings of the entertainment business. If you imagine, it's a bit like Staten, right in the middle you've got Beyoncé, and then on one of the outer rings you've got us. And to be absolutely honest, we're kind of happy there right now. We can record what we want, we can speak and say what we want. We don't have management or a label, chewing our ear off because we said something inappropriate politically or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell this is the case by the number of high-profile pop stars and celebrities who have kept suspiciously stumm through this whole process.
Yeah.
And it's because they've got management that doesn't want them to speak or a record company that doesn't want them to speak. So we're happy that there's a financial downside, obviously. And it does kind of grate a little bit, I suppose, if I'm to be completely honest with you, that if you write a song like I'm Too Sexy, you are kind of automatically regarded as being a little bit dim, really, really lucky, and almost a bit of a scammer, really. There's nothing really of any depth there, and I think people are still quite surprised that we're still alive and playing. I think
it's for cheeky girls all over again, isn't it?
People think we're the cheek. Yeah, they are. It's bizarre. Back in the day, I was very, very irritated by it, and I think we both. And now I just think, actually, do I want to be in that melee right in the middle of all that? No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I do.
No, when I watch some artists, my heart just bleed breaks for them.
But the point is, I'm Too Sexy is a fantastic song, and it's been used in so many different TV and film things over the years. It is the epitome of iconic, really.
Yes, it's one of those things, mate, where when we did it, we had no idea. I mean, we really had no clue, and it was only in the last 4 or 5 years, believe it or not, that we suddenly realised that you can put anything after I'm Too Sexy For.
Yes.
When people started saying I'm too sexy for my house, I suddenly thought, oh yes, you can do that. That's brilliant. Brilliant.
Wish we'd thought of that.
I wish we'd thought of that, yeah. So it's, I love the track. I've never not wanted to sing it and goon around with it, and Fred's the same. We don't have any problem with it at all. We're very proud of it. But it has been, it's the goose that lays the golden egg, and it's a lead weight. It's a bit of both.
Yeah. But you've done loads of cracking singles. I'm a Celebrity, which I loved.
I'm a celebrity. You'll find me in the lavatory. I powder my nose. You know how it goes. It's all in my biography. It's my life. I dream about it day and night.
We Are the Freds, which was brilliant.
We are the Freds. We are. We are the Freds. We are. Would you take us home to meet your mom and pa? We are the Freds. We are. Hello. We are the Freds.
You did a charity single as well for Comic Relief. Stick It Out.
I tell you what, Relief, said Fred, pop pickers. Stick it out. Right, not off.
Which I mean, my God, I was just watching a video recently. Jules Holland, Peter Cook, Hugh Laurie. It is oozing with celebs.
When you're on the doctor's couch, you've got to stick it out. You want to be a world champ, you've got to stick it right out. So don't be afraid to risk it. You know you must stay optimistic. You're gonna laugh if you stick it out.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun. Peter Cook was really. He came in. We did I think we did some recording in a studio the day after or a few days later, and he turned up with the biggest bottle of Beck's I've ever seen in my entire life. It was like Magnum Beck's. It was huge. And he was great. He was really, really,
Very
really
funny.
great. But they all were. I mean, everybody was
Steve
really...
Coogan, was it?
Yeah, Steve Coogan. I think we did the thing with him.
Oh, yeah.
Back in those days, of course, he was just known for his impressions more than anything else.
Yes, he was, yeah.
Steve Coogan.
Yes, that's before Partridge. Yeah.
Before Partridge, yeah. So, we have done loads of stuff. And it's we had a number one in Japan a few years ago, but it was a number one by another band of a song that we had written. So nobody knew it was us.
I love it.
The top of a tall erection.
Building, it's a
You
building.
can hear a shout in your direction. Stick it out. And make yourself laugh. Wanna have a laugh, have a laugh.
Scratch and Sniff. With Nick Randell.
Multi-award winning, but apparently you gave one of them back. Tell us about the Rear of the Year award that you rejected.
I know. I was going through a bit of a Ponzi phase then. I do apologise. I thought I was Bob Dylan or somebody. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. I just thought, how dare they? How dare they? Don't they know I've got a brain? I'm not just meat, you know. I'm not a tart. I'm not just a tart. And in the studio, they sent me this huge silver platter with my name on it and Bum of the Year and all this, Rear of the Year, whatever it's called. And I sent it back. Yeah, I sent it back. What a stupid thing to do. You know, it's back in the days when we were taking ourselves a bit too seriously and thinking that we were curing cancer when we obviously weren't. You know.
I would have had it, I tell you.
Well, I should have. It should be.
Well, yeah, one of them.
Yeah, no, you should have. You know, it's
quite a cool thing, really.
Yes, it's but it's kind of. When I look back, I just think I was a bit of an idiot, basically, doing that.
I'm a celebrity, like from obscurity. And now that I'm in it with my 50 minutes, it's all about me.
Now, with I'm a Celebrity, would you go on any of those shows? Have you done any of those shows in recent years? Because that seems to be quite another launching pad for people who have had success at certain times.
Yeah.
We get asked to do everything.
Yeah.
In those regards, we were very close to doing I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. We actually went to Australia, and we were sort of sitting around twiddling our thumbs, and then us and the production kind of fell out, and it didn't really go anywhere. But other than that, we just say no to everything because it's just not. It's not the way we want to spend our lives, really. It doesn't really. When I watch the show, I don't think, oh, that looks like fun. I think it looks like purgatory.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really.
No, it's the toilet paper that always bothered me.
Well, too much.
No, well, what do you use? A leaf?
There'll be toilet paper there.
Oh, I don't know. If there's not a nice 5-star bathroom, I don't want to go.
I think I would just hold it in for 2 weeks. I just wouldn't have a dump for 2 whole weeks. I'll be massive by the end of it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I've been walking across that bridge right at the end.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my God.
And also, despite what people think of the way we're viewed, the thing we really still enjoy is we really enjoy writing music and getting in the studio and recording. That's what we enjoy.
Yeah. Also, we have to be a bit careful. We've mentioned this before. It's not news, but we both have depression, and we do. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Most people feel like that when they've been on my show.
And what we do have to be careful with is if we lose we do have quite dark tempers, and I don't think people would find that particularly good telly.
No, I see where you're going. Yeah.
So we have to sort of manage ourselves a little bit when it comes to that because we know what we can be like. So you've got to be careful.
Yeah.
One more thing about I'm Too Sexy. Now, it didn't get to number one. Amazing. I checked it out. It went to number one in the US, which is fantastic, and all the rest of it. But Bryan Adams.
I know everybody. One of the things we've been asked ever since that period was whether the whole Bryan Adams thing irritated us. And to be absolutely honest, you have to put your mind back to where we had come from, which was absolutely nowhere. For us at the time, a top 40 would have been an absolute stunner. Really would. I mean, we would have been happy with that. Our main object at that time was just to get something on the radio so that people could hear it. So going to number 2 and not getting to number 1 was a relief. Because if you get to number 1, there's only one place to go, and that's down. You know.
But you went up instead for the next one.
We did. Dippy Dippy.
Dippy,
yeah, that was why the album sold, I think, so well, because opened up a market that was not strictly dance. Not a mums and dads market. I don't mean it in that sort of pejorative way, but it sort of opened up an alternative to an alternative audience, if you like. So Deeply Dippy definitely was a real leverage when it gave us leverage when it came to the album.
Deeply about the curves you got, deeply hot for the curves you got, deeply dippy about the fun we had, deeply mad for the fun we had. Oh my love, I can't make head nor tail of passion. Oh my love, let's set sail for seas of passion now.
If the album had just been full of I'm Too Sexy, it wouldn't have done the business that it did.
Sure. No, absolutely. No, you clearly have legs in terms of longevity going through all your stuff. So many cracking singles.
She makes me crazy, makes me go quite haywire. I'm not an acrobat, but here I am, I'm on the high wire. My intuition tells me this has gone quite far enough. If my vertigo kicks in and down I go, I'm to the hot stuff. That's what she does to me, yeah. She's my little bit of angel dust. That's what she does to me. She's my little bit of angel dust.
One other thing I want to add, a little bit of a personal thing here. Gaytime TV, which you presented, it was after my time, but I was actually on it twice. I was, it was a club, gay club or society, and I was on the pilot with Katie Puckrick was on the pilot, being interviewed by Bert Tyler Moore, who we called Mary, and Rona Cameron, who of course weren't half as good as you, got to say that, but they were okay. But we were talking about the gay Doctor Who club. And so I was on Gaytime TV.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Smell me.
Yeah.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce one of the stars of this year's Pride. He is one half of pop legend Erasure. Please welcome Mr. Andy Bell.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame, I think, when that got canned. It was, I think, the BBC, given that it's a publicly funded station to a large extent, it should serve the gay community more effectively than it does.
Yeah.
And when it was cancelled, I remember the argument was given, well, we'll cover gay issues within drama and within other programmes. Yeah. That's not really the point, I don't think.
Yeah.
There are very specific issues. And I remember when I did this, when I did Gaytime TV, I had a phone call at my house, actually. I don't know how they got the number. And it was from a relative of mine who was about 15 and was at Eton College. And he realised that he was gay, but obviously couldn't tell his parents and couldn't tell anybody, so he told me. And he wouldn't have done that had I not been on the TV doing Gaytime. So I think it gave a sort of a, it gave us that kind of legitimacy. If you were a gay guy or girl up in the middle of Wales or Scotland or in an isolated part of the UK, this was your place where you could watch other like-minded people. And that was useful, I think, for those people. I think it's a shame that it's gone.
It is a great shame. I mean, I remember the original Out on Tuesdays. I mean, I'm going back a little bit there, but I couldn't believe there was that sort of content. I think Gaytime TV was sort of lighter. It's more like a gay version of This Morning, really. But it covered some great topics. I mean, yeah. Yeah,
it did. And also at a very, very crucial time when the whole HIV/AIDS thing was particularly prevalent in the UK, and it needed that program was very useful from that point of view. And also, one of the interesting things I will tell you is that we had a music slot at the end of each episode, end of each program, and a lot of pop artists wouldn't come. I shan't say who they were.
Oh, go on, tell us.
wouldn't do it because it would tarnish or spoil their image in some way.
For heaven's sake.
Yeah, so it was quite I learned quite a lot. I learned quite a lot from that. And at the time, I was with my partner, who died sadly about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, and he and it was through that program and being with him that I learned that it's, falling in love with somebody of the same sex is just not that big a deal. No. I mean, we just need to grow up a little bit. And half the world is female, half the world is male. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's gay pets. There's there's in the animal kingdom. It's all part of nature.
Yeah, there's one lady I knew. She's passed away actually now, but she was married, and the reason she left her husband and went and ended up living with another woman, and it wasn't sexual at all. She wanted somebody who understood her, who understood her as a friend and a companion, and that is also another ingredient in that in the same-sex relationship as well. So we seem to define this whole question on the sex thing, and it's a lot more nuanced than that.
Oh, absolutely.
All I needed was your love. Even now it's obvious. All I needed was a turtle dove to make it right.
Let's talk about some gigs. Let's be optimistic, looking to the future. Gigs post-COVID, because you've got some fruity ones coming up, haven't you? Well, sassy, fruity.
Yeah, everything before June has been moved to next year. This is just from our perspective. We've had some cancelled because of our outspoken position, which we won't say who they are because that's not fair. But they have, if they don't want to have us, that's fine. And we may be out at the end of the year, but we're not. We see. Because I've flown a couple of times because my wife is in Spain and we were trying to move, and her and I have a business together, and so I had to go back to Spain a couple of times. And I was thinking while I was doing that, imagine if this is 12 people or 10 people. It's going to be quite the logistical nightmare. So I think shows within a country, within wherever you live, I think they'll be a lot easier to handle and possibly just manage. I think the festival fly in, fly out, which we used to do a great deal of, I think that's going to be very difficult and also very expensive because one thing that would have to happen at the moment is you'd need an extra day at the end of after your show for everybody to be tested, and then because you need that time. And so just one thing, I was even speaking to our agent. I said, well, who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for those 1 or 2 extra days in the hotel and all the food? Whose cost is that?
Yeah. And
it won't be the promoter's cost because I can tell you once you've done the show, they just want you to go away and die. So it will probably be that down to the artist. And certainly for an artist with the margins we work on, that would stop us working. Yeah. And I think that applies to many artists of our sort of size. I think if you're in and out and you're Muse or whoever, it just won't matter because
even then you might have a major act with a whole load of crew. If 1 or 2 people come up positive,
yes,
then it could threaten the whole thing.
No, absolutely. But I was thinking about more gigs in this country. The world's your lobster, really. You can just go up and down the country and do all these great outdoor gigs, hopefully in the sunshine and
If they, our agent's talking to them, and we the trouble is our value abroad is much higher than it is here, so that's one issue. We'll just have to see what happens. I mean, we've never been a huge touring band. We used to do a lot of festivals June to early September, but we're not one of those bands that jumps on a bus and disappears for 6 months.
Sure.
We've never really done that. Well,
we jump on the run bus.
Yes, you jump on the run bus.
It's a Brexit bus.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just waiting to see. We're sort of getting on with some other projects that we find really interesting, which so there's a couple of film projects we're interested in, and there's some other sort of a book. And
so is this like writing a score for a film or something like that?
No, we've actually written the story for 2 films.
Awesome.
And the screenplay has been done by the same guy who's a friend of ours. One is fully funded. We're just trying to get it's because of COVID. It's just trying to get. It's herding cats at the moment. And then the other one is more of a TV series, and that's been. We've got a very well-known UK director who says he wants to do it, but we can't say who he is, and the production period hasn't been assigned yet.
Loads.
So we have to stay stum.
We can't tickle you and get the information that way.
We'll know more, I guess. By the end of the year, we'll definitely know more by then.
Yes, we should. Yeah,
But it is the thing is for us as musicians. You get used to recording on the Monday and sticking it on the socials on the Friday. This has been the films. I mean, the average.
It's our 6th year.
This is our 6th year. Yeah, and you just have to get used to the speed with which this works. Getting the male lead, getting the female lead, getting the budget. Finding the people you want to work with. It's a completely different discipline.
Yeah. It's just to say, you guys clearly have never been away. Just hearing you talk and all the stuff you've been doing, it's just fantastic. And I've got to say, this single should be playlisted on all the big radio stations. Your Inner Light is Love. Listen, guys, thank you so much for this. Just a final thing, we always give a little, what we call a celebrity goodie bag to all our guests. So if we get some details from you or via your agent or whatever, we'll get something nice sent across to you. Thank you so much, and let's play out with Your Inner Light is Love.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Shine your light because your inner light is love. Shine your light on friends. Shine your light on them. Shine your light because your inner light is love.
Shine your light on love. Let's see it all. Rejuvenate me like a waterfall. I am relying on a shining bright enough to break my fall. It really would be something if we could all agree. I'm a lot like you, you're a lot like me.
Shine your light on love. Shine your light on us. Shine your light because your inner light is love. Shine your light on friends. Shine your light on them. Shine your light because your inner light is love.
Everyone will shine at the same time. It's not too late to radiate. They can't tell the difference 'cause there's none to see. I'm a lot like you, you're a lot like me.
Shine your light on love. Shine your light on us. Shine your light because your inner light is love. Shine your light on friends. Shine your light on them. Shine your light because your inner light is love. Shine your light on
SNSonlineshow.com, your brand new one-stop shop for all things SNS. Take a tour through our wide and diverse collection of shows and listen in to our exclusive range of in-depth interviews spanning the popular arts, featuring actors, writers, journalists, stand-up comedians, musicians and more. You can also enjoy our shorter bite-sized series covering vibrant new theatre, television and book releases. And with our arts lifestyle remit, you get to explore issue-based topics, including health, mental health, women's rights around the world, and LGBTQ. Contact us with both your comments and suggestions for future guests. And don't forget to read up on our blog, regularly updated with articles and photographs. A forum where everyone is welcome to contribute. SNSonlineshow.com, your one-stop shop for all things SNS.